from beautiful Road America, resplendent in sunshine after a couple of rainy days, and set now to play host to qualifying for Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS. Hello everyone, my name is Ryan Marine. Calvin Fish is alongside, and DJ Clark is down in the pit lane, deputizing for Amanda Busick here this weekend. It's been a wet and wild build-up to qualifying, Calvin, but no wet weather to worry about, at least for this qualifying session. And for a lot of these teams, this might be the first real significant running that they've had in dry conditions over the course of 2 days of testing and practice.
Yeah, it's been a very disrupted couple of days here. We had an open test here on Thursday that had some rain, and then yesterday it was really a heavy downpour that curtailed the second practice session. So a lot of these teams are on the back foot, but some of these teams did test here recently, so hopefully those notes will translate to the track conditions here this morning for qualifying.
Several changes to the entry list since we last saw this series on track at VIR. Notably, we have a new driver joining Brian Sellers. That will be Bryson Morris in the DXDT Racing Corvette. That's one of several changes. We'll talk about more of those as the qualifying session goes along, but right now let's welcome in for the first time DJ Clark. Good morning, DJ.
Well, good morning, Ryan. It is a beautiful day here in Wisconsin, and it is what are hopefully going to be a beautiful weekend for Jeff Burton and the rest of Regulator Racing. Jeff, an absolutely fantastic weekend. Race 2, spectacular in VIR. Do you guys have what it takes to be able to repeat that success here at Road America?
Sure. We're not here. If we didn't think so, we wouldn't be here. So, yeah, we think we can do what we did last week at VAR. A few things are different. Weather conditions are different, you know, so we've struggled a little bit, but we're working through them like every team does. So we're here to race and we're here to win.
All right. Well, we hope to see you on the top step, Jeff. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
As ever, that Regulator Racing team electing to do something different than most of the teams up and down this grid, swapping their driver lineups where Philip Ellis, the pro in the Pro-Am lineup, will qualify and start Race 1, and the inverse will be true then for Race 2. And what that has done is put them in positions to score 3 podiums this season, including an overall race win the last time out at VIR.
Yeah, and how that strategy works by qualifying Philip Ellis in the first sector of qualifying here. He'll be the starting driver. He'll go up against the AMs in a Pro-Am lineup and hopefully have a green flag race. He wants to establish a big cushion, put in a great run, even though they're on the back foot a little bit with their setup with the wet weather here. But ideally, when that Mercedes is performing well, Philip Ellis typically qualifies at the front, build a big gap, allow Jeff Burton to take the reins and try and just bring it home. And then for tomorrow, they want a yellow. In terms of the second race where Jeff is qualified, they want to compress that field, and then Philip Ellis does what he does best in trying to drive that car to the front.
It makes for a lot of fun for us. We see the comers and the goers over the course of the races, and we'll see ST Racing employ that strategy as well with Bill Oberlin and Varun Choksi. Here is a look at Road America. 14 turns, just over 4 miles in length. You see the GT3 track record at a 2:04.089 set last year. This place is iconic, Calvin, and every racer wants to come and get a chance to test themselves here at Road America.
They really do. I came here the first time back in the mid-'80s and fell in love with not only Elkhart Lake, the village, but the racetrack as well. It gives you everything. Got some long straightaways here. These GT3 cars are going to be touching almost 165 miles an hour up into Turn 1, down into 5, and down into Canada Corner. But you've got big, long straightaways and heavy brake zones, particularly into 5, into 12. Even the run down the hurry downs into Turn 8 gives you an opportunity to make a move down to the inside. Track was resurfaced a couple of years ago. Last year when we ran here, it was pretty much a one-line racetrack. If you stepped outside of that line, you could be in trouble. But since we've had so much racing over the last season or so, it's really now transpired into a racetrack. You can make overtaking moves. You can drive around the outside in some of these corners, so it should be a lot more exciting this year.
Well, you're right. This track has been remarkably busy since the start of June. Just about every weekend, something is here racing at Road America, and Kyle Washington has been here busy. 3 straight weeks.
I know. I think he's going to, by the end of this weekend, he'll have raced about 10 times in 3 weekends. He's probably bought a home there, I would think.
Yeah, I'd say so. He was racing in IMSA a couple weeks ago, Porsche Sprint Challenge last weekend, and here for SRO this weekend, coming off of a big win, too, for him the last time at VIR. Let's get more, though, from the pit lane now with DJ.
Well, Ryan, one of those changes that you mentioned here, Flying Lizard Motorsports in the number 8, switching over to a BMW chassis this weekend. I'm here with Andy Lee, the pro driver in that car. Andy, what has this change been like?
Transformative for us, for sure. The car is great right out of the box, and we've only had a couple of days with it, and most of that's been marred in weather. So we have a lot to learn, but we're still, really hopeful for this qualifying session. Yeah.
Well, you looked very quick in testing and in practice. Do you think that pace is going to carry on when it's dry now?
I certainly hope so. I mean, we were near the top of the page in the wet, and I've only had a handful of laps in the dry here, and Elias has only had, I think, 1.5 laps in the dry. So there's a lot to learn. I was joking with the crew, like the car is so new to us that, one of my practice sessions, I couldn't figure out how to turn the windshield wipers on or turn them off, all the knobs and dials are still so fresh. Hope that I, can get enough together here to just put us close to the top of the page, and we have been so far.
Well, as a pro, you also have the honor of being a driver coach to Elias Sabo. What does Elias think of the car? How's he been getting up to speed with it?
He loves it. Got right up to speed. We did a couple days at our home track, Apex Motor Club in Phoenix, and he jumped in, and after the first 5 laps, he came in with a big smile on his face. So I think he's going to be quite happy.
All right. Well, we're quite happy to see it. The livery looks beautiful. Thank you so much, Andy.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Let's do it.
That is indeed one of those changes this weekend, with Flying Lizard making the switch from Aston Martin, at least with this entry, to the BMW. They still have an Aston that they will run in the GT America race later on today with Jason Bell. But for Elias Sabo, just trying to find a platform he feels a bit more comfortable with. And the reports were, when they tested this BMW for the first time, they felt pretty convinced this was the right choice to make.
Yeah, and to make a switch mid-season is not an easy choice, and they just felt with their previous platform they weren't getting the results they were hopeful of. And but to Andy's point, both drivers, Andy and Elias, have felt immediately at home. Bumped into Darren Law yesterday, team manager there at Flying Lizard. He said, yeah, it's been a lot of work. This is a car that Chandler Hull campaigned last year with Bimmerworld and Bill Oberlin co-driving. So the car is good. They got a good spares package. They intend to stay with this program, maybe even evolve into the new Evo for next year. So a lot of plans moving ahead with BMW. They've really appreciated the support that BMW Motorsport and Adam McGregor and everyone there have provided in making this transition, and that's really the key. You need help. It's not just buying a car and going sorting it out. You need people to support you, and they feel they've got that support.
Well, you heard it there from Andy, just learning how the car works, what buttons to press to do something as simple as turn the windshield wiper off and on. It's a totally different process as you switch from one GT3 manufacturer to another. And BMW has been strong here over the course of this weekend. Practice 1, it was a BMW 1-2-3 with ST Racing's 2 cars sandwiching the Turner Motorsport entry. So keep an eye out on those BMWs here today in qualifying. This is the Corvette that we mentioned has a new driver in the lineup. Bryson Morris jumping on board, replacing Scott Smithson. And one of 2 entries, of course, from DXDT Racing. The Pro Class entry is the winner of the last 4 races in Fanatec GT World Challenge America. And one of the drivers, Tommy Milner, is down with DJ.
I have indeed been able to catch up with Tommy Milner. Tommy, it's 4 for 4 here for DXDT Racing. You and the team looking absolutely lights out. I don't want to jinx you, but can you keep this streak going?
We'll try, that's for sure. It'll be harder this weekend, I think. I think the track, being with all these long straightaways here at Road America, it's a little bit harder for us. This Corvette is really, really good in the brakes, which there's a lot of that here, but the long straightaways are going to be a little bit difficult for us. But we'll certainly try. Alec's been doing a fantastic job this year. He's been the real difference maker, I think, for us. So, we'll lean on him a little bit, I think, this weekend. But yeah, we'll see. This weekend's been so crazy with the weather being raining and a little bit of dry weather. I have 3 dry laps so far this weekend. I'm going to get another 4 or 5 here in qualifying. So we've done some testing. We feel pretty good about the Corvette, but it'll be a bigger challenge this weekend.
All right, so a little bit of a hill to climb, but if the pass is anything to go by, you're going to be looking real good. Tommy, thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you.
Just watching the 29 machine, the Turner Motorsport entry, as he came down into turn 3, it's almost like I could see fluid coming out from the left front corner. That was a little bit bizarre. Track is dry. We had a lot of rain yesterday, but it's been dry for the first couple of qualifying sessions of this morning, so keep an eye on that. Hopefully there's nothing, any water hose adrift on the front end of that BMW. Been very quick here this weekend as well. One of the favorites to maybe take the pole here.
Well, Rothberg already has a pole position earned this morning for GT America, powered by AWS, the first qualifying session of the day, and he went out and laid down the fast lap by a fairly wide margin for that race, which is coming up later on in the afternoon. So we'll keep an eye on it, see if anything looks amiss. This is Elias Sabo in the Flying Lizard BMW with the 511 tactical sponsorship, of course, as is customary for Elias Sabo. Just 15 minutes in these qualifying sessions. This is the first of 2 that will run back-to-back. Qualifying 1 sets the grid for race 1 later today. Qualifying 2 sets the grid, of course, for race number 2. But these laps around Road America, they are long. 15 minutes doesn't give you that many opportunities to get it right.
No, you're going to be looking at about 8 laps maybe if you stay out there for the full session. And these cars are fueled up for both qualifying sessions, so it'll be a little bit heavier for the first driver to take part in quali here. And the only thing that really takes place during that quick break before quali 2 comes up is a fresh set of tires can go on for the second driver.
This is the car that topped the time charts in yesterday's practice 2 with ex-IndyCar driver Zach Veach behind the wheel. Zach shares the car with Luca Mars for Racer's Edge Motorsports. They've been at the heels of the pace-setting BMWs in practice 1 as well. They were 4th quickest overall in that session. First flyers now underway with Bill Auberlen for ST Racing. Again, electing to go on that same strategy that Regulator Racing has employed all season long. This is something new this year where your Driver 1 and Driver 2 nomination, that is up to the team. And we've seen a couple of teams elect to roll the dice a few times, and it's paid off.
Yeah, and I think for Bill Auberlen and Varun Choksi, I think Varun's done a great job on his debut season with GT3 machinery. They've had kind of a slow start. They've been scratching their heads a little bit as to why their car doesn't seem to have the pace of the sister car, but they're gradually working through things. I spoke to Joel Miller yesterday, who runs the operation there for ST Racing. He said there's been no smoking gun. We did some testing, and just gradually we're now getting the car into its sweet spot. But Bill still says that they seem to want to run their car with a different setup to what the sister car runs in terms of ride heights and things like that. But he felt confident, had a good test, and as you said, ST were 1 and 3 in terms of positions in that. Really the only true indication of dry running pace here this weekend.
Started this season with 6 consecutive podiums. Didn't get to the podium the last 2 races at VIR, but come into this race weekend second in points, 36 tallies in arrears of the Wright Motorsports duo, which we haven't talked about yet, Adam Adelson and Elliott Skier, who continue to put together a remarkably consistent season. Haven't been back to victory lane in terms of the top step of the podium, at least since the season opener at Sonoma, but they do hold the points advantage. But this is one that could go on a late season run. You look at a guy like Bill Auberlen, and as Varun Choksi, the co-driver, gets more and more experience in GT3, his pace has been good, and he's only getting stronger as the year goes along.
Yeah, and Bill lays down the first marker there at 2:05.5, which is a little bit quicker than he ran here yesterday in that test at 2:05.7. So that's the fastest lap of the weekend. But Luca Mars aboard that Racer's Edge Motorsports Acura NSX jumps to the top with a 2:05.3.
But this might be a guy to watch here. Philip Ellis has been a pole machine this season. He's got the quickest opening sector, not by much, but he does hold it by 66 thousandths of a second here on his first flying lap around this 14-turn, 4-mile circuit, located about an hour north of Milwaukee near the village of Elkhart Lake.
Yeah, just a great setting, and Phillips won a number of the drivers in the field actually competed here a couple of weeks ago in similar machinery. So, like Tommy Milne said, I've only got a handful of laps. But yes, Tommy, you did do a 2-hour, 40-minute race 2 weeks ago in a similar car, so I'm sure they'll get up to speed very rapidly.
And the Corvettes were quick here.
They were. Tommy's car was actually on the pole.
Yeah. Under 10 minutes to go. Let's check these times as we come to the line. Philip Philip Ellis trending in the right direction, and no surprise, he goes P1 at a 2:03.976. That's only 9/10 off of track record pace.
That's incredible. Talk about Jeff Burton say, well, we're on the back foot a little bit wide there through turn 1. Track limits will be called, particularly in qualifying. So we'll get another look at that deeper into the session, but as you come through turn 1, there's a white line, and then there's these perpendicular lines that you see there coming through Canada corner as well. You got to have at least part of your tire or part of your car, the right sides for a right-hander, obviously touching those stripes. Otherwise, you'll be called out of bounds and lose that lap.
Oberlin is pushing, gave back about 7/10 of a second though in the middle sector. We picked up this run at the start of the 3rd sector. Here he comes to the timing line with 8 minutes 40 seconds on the clock, and it's good enough to move Bill Oberlin to P2, but a second off of Phil Ellis's pace-setting lap time.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a huge surprise for these teams. Bill's out there probably seeing his time on his dash and thinking this is a good lap, and then the team will say, you know, yeah, minus 1.1.
I'll keep an eye on this. This is Alec Udell, teammate to Tommy Milner, of course, and that was a good first sector, just 800ths off of Philip Ellis. And you heard Tommy heap the praise there on Alec Udell, saying he's been the difference maker. That's coming from a GM factory driver who's been with Corvette Racing for a decade plus.
Yeah, I think he's been so impressed. I mean, we've known Alec for a long time. I've always been impressed by his skill set and his demeanor and how he goes about his approach to racing. But when you get this opportunity with a big team, with a big manufacturer, I mean, he's just taken it, as we've said before this season, with both hands and just rode with it, and has been very, very solid. And he had a race at VIR. He got in, beginning laps. It was a little bit messy, but he sorted out and came through for the win. So he'll learn a lot from that, and a lot of pressure on him. But this team is really performing, going for 5 straight victories.
It was Philip Ellis staying out of the way, allowing Alec Udell to play through. Not quite as strong in the middle sector as the Mercedes, but what can the Corvette do coming up the hill to the timing line? It is an improvement up to P2 at a 2:04.690 for the graduate of Clemson University.
Yeah, and I think that'll get the regulated racing team's attention. Philip Ellis, they're already kind of cruising around. He won't want to use up those tires unless he has to, because they're part of your set that you use in the races here this weekend. So if you can get that flyer in like Philip has done and then minimize your laps, that'll put you in better shape for the race. But when you got someone within a 7/10, that sounds like a lot, but it's a long circuit here. So if you can just pick up that little bit of grip in each corner, get the balance a little bit better as you get deeper in this session, you can find big chunks of time. So Philip Ellis probably is thinking, maybe I'm not quite safe to just abandon this session and just park it.
For the first time this year, we have 2 entries in the AM class. It's actually the first time we've had even a single entry in the AM class so far this season. Will Hardiman with an impressive qualifying to sit 7th, right there in the very middle. Whoa, big off there. That's that's Will Hardiman. As we talk about him, that was in Canada corner. That was a wild ride up over some very, frankly, bumpy bumps, right? The curves on the outside of that corner are there to dissuade you from doing exactly what Will just did.
Yeah, the resurfacing has been superb, and they have such a solid foundation to the circuit in terms of where the location of the track and how it was built. So it doesn't even suffer during the winter of bumps, but certainly the transition into some of the old curbing, and when you get off course through turn 1, there's a big bump at the exit there last year that they've kind of smoothed out a little bit. But that was a rough ride that he took there through Canada on that trip.
This is a new lineup to the championship this year. Second time we've seen A, of course. They had 2 different drivers racing earlier in the year at Circuit of the Americas, but Jay Schreibman joining veteran Oz Negri, who remarkably is making his first ever start in Fanatec GT World Challenge America, or its predecessor, Pirelli World Challenge.
Yeah, and he's been very impressed with that new Ferrari, as we now see the XDT fly across the line there. Bryson Morris, I believe, correct?
No,
it's the 63. Okay, yeah, that's Alec Udell. So that lap was a little bit slow, about 4/10 off his previous best. So he can't improve. He may have plateaued here a little bit. But getting back to Oz Negri, Yeah, really impressed with the speed in that Ferrari. They tested here. They've had a little bit of a BOP adjustment where the car's raised a little bit, and he said we've lost the sharpness of the car a little bit, but he said this new 296, first time he's really raced it, did do a test last year and won, but he said it's really impressive, maybe the best GT3 car he's ever driven.
Negri and Schreibman have driven together in the old 488, the 2020 Evo version of that car, as recently as the finale of International GT Open last year. And they've done a handful of races in that series, as well as Italian GT together. But to your point, first time in the 296 and coming over here stateside. This is another newcomer. We've been waiting for the Montreal Motorsports Group to make its appearance, and they did for the first time at VIR in GT America, where J.F. LeBurge drove solo, but now joined by veteran and former series champion Kyle Marcelli here this weekend.
And these two guys that competed against each other back in Porsche Carrera Cup Canada about, I think it was 10, 12 years ago, but it's all about networking. Carl's a Canadian as well, of course, and JF just called him up and said, what do you think? He said, for sure. But Carl's kind of recovering. He missed the IMSA event here a couple of weeks ago with some condition in his right arm, some nerve thing. I think he's I think he might have been building his own house, I believe, and something went amiss and some nerve damage where he didn't have true feeling in his right arm, but he's obviously good to go again now.
Yeah, exciting to have this team here on the grid. First time Kyle's driven Porsche GT3 car. He's got experience in the Cup cars. In fact, that's where this relationship with JF comes from. But good to have them bolstering this grid. You mentioned Bryson Morris a little bit ago, and he was on a nice lap, actually jumped for the time, and still is to second in the Pro-Am class, which is remarkable. His first weekend racing the new Corvette with DXDT Racing.
Yeah, really impressive young man, been running in TCR this year, and he's under the turn. Oh, that was wild there by Luca Mars. Currently fourth overall, third in Pro right now, just digging deep. That sort of slide is not going to be good in terms of lap time.
Wonder if they elect to call it quits here.
Yeah, and he's not starting a flyer either, so he's just going to bail. I think maybe the tires are pressured up a little bit too high now deep into this session, but solid run for Luca. Had the top spot momentarily early in the session, so Racer's Edge with an Acura looking strong here this weekend.
Here is the aforementioned Bryson Morris. Like you said, experience in Hyundai touring car equipment. Actually won his class at the 24 Hours of the Nürburgring in a touring car for Hyundai earlier this year, and has limited GT3 experience with ST Racing running in the Creventic 24-Hour Series. He's part of the lineup that gave BMW's its first win with this new M4 GT3. That was a couple of years back.
Yeah, nice young man, and he actually tested here, kind of giving him a run and looking at him in terms of the Indy 8-hour where they'll employ a third driver, and then this opportunity came to run in this weekend's event, and he said for sure, let's do it. So I'm not sure whether he'll be at Barber or not. I think a lot will depend on how he runs this weekend, but certainly great to see this young man getting an opportunity, and when he's teamed up with someone like Brian Sellers, he's going to soak up that experience like a sponge here this weekend.
Still pushing right now with the personal best in the middle sector. One of a handful that are showing some improvement. Justin Rothberg has a personal best in the first sector, as does Elias Sabo. But let's see what Morris can do. Must not have liked what he saw, I assume, because that car has made the trip into the pit lane and gives up that final lap with just 38 seconds left on the clock here in qualifying one. A second 15-minute qualifying session will come up shortly after the checkered flag waves for this, which again will set the grid for race 2 of the weekend tomorrow. And we're starting to run out of these 90-minute sprint races, Calvin. Just the 2 here this weekend, 2 more at Barber, and then the season finale is the Indianapolis 8-hour.
Yeah, and we're looking for a bumper grid there. There's like 8 to 10 cars, I think, from the IGTC rank's going to join our regular runners, so it should be a mid-20s kind of number for the field, which will be very exciting. Elias here is just trying to get the job done here. He's gone personal best in Sector 1, a little bit shy of his best in the second sector. Let's see if he can complete the lap and move up any.
Needs to find about a second to pip Kyle Washington for 12th overall. But all of these laps are valuable for Elias as he's starting to come to grips with this new chassis. I'm sure he was one of several that were not exactly thrilled to see all the rain over the last couple of days. They needed as much dry running as they could get.
Yeah, it's really important. We talked about it right at the start of the season, right, when we had the track issues out in Sonoma. Teams coming in kind of a little bit cold, needed that track and data, and didn't get it. So, but they'll grow stronger as they get to grips with that, just getting the data and sorted out. They've got such a strong engineering squad there at Flying Lizard Motorsports. It will not take them long.
So the checkered flag is out. Doesn't look like anyone is out on a flyer at this stage, and so at least provisionally, it's yet another pole for Philip Ellis and Regulator Racing, and that is crucial for their strategy. They need Philip to get out in front, run away and hide, and hope for a nice, clean green flag race so that he can hand over to Jeff Burton, and Jeff can just manage that gap the rest of the way. On the flip side, we just saw Adam Adelson popping out of his car, and the points leaders in the pro class find themselves 6th overall, but that's at the back of their category.
Yeah, fifth in class there for Adam, and just taking in the body language as he jumped over the wall there. I'm not sure he's that happy with that result, but again, they did run here a couple of weeks ago as well. Both he and Elliott competed in the IMSA round here. So you would think you'd come in here with a strong effort, but then it comes down to how you compare with the other machinery in your class. So we'll see what shakes out in session 2 with Elliott behind the wheel.
They are notably the quickest Porsche in that session, so let's keep that in mind. Here is a look at the provisional results, and Philip Ellis, what a lap. 7/10 clear of Alec Udell to take overall pole as well as the Pro-Am class pole. Pro class pole to Udell and Milner for DXDT Racing, winners of the last 4 in the Pro class since they entered the championship. ST Racing and Bill Auberlin will line up 3rd overall. Luca Mars and Zach Beach there in the 4th spot, continuing a strong weekend for them. Madison Snow, haven't talked about Random Vandals Racing, but this is their long-awaited debut in the GT3 category, Fanatec GT World Challenge America. Expected to have IndyCar driver Connor Daly in that car, but Connor got the call up to race in St. Louis this weekend. Madison, now a BMW factory driver, was drafted in alongside Kenton Cook, and they're in 7th overall. That's your pole sitter in the AM class with Will Hardiman right there amongst the big boys. Really good qualifying effort for Will, who will share the car once more this weekend with Alan Metney.
Yeah, that was superb by Will there, that lap he put together. Had that little ride through Canada corner, but survived it, and car's in great shape. Let's see what Metney can do in the 2nd session here.
Beautiful weekend at Road America. Even with the rain, it's lovely to be up here once again. Unfortunately, the traditional parade got curtailed on Thursday evening, but still great festivities, great fan interaction here at Road America. A couple of interesting moments in this session, Calvin. This was Luca Mars down in the Canada corner. We've seen a number of cars looking for grip down in Canada here this
really
morning.
deep on the brakes there, and he just tried to roll off the brakes and throw it in there with speed, and the rear end just gave up a little bit. And that will happen as you sort of like get the tire pressures sort of like at the extremes late in the session. And this is Will Hardiman pushing in deep, just gets a little bit too much speed there, kind of rolls with it, out of bounds a little bit, and then that little bump there, a little bit more dramatic probably from the driver's seat, no big deal. But at the exit of the curbs, you still got to be careful. They've done a wonderful job with it. It's actually made the transition between the track surface and the curbs not so abrupt, but when you get to the end of them and you start jumping the diffuser off that trailing edge, it can give you issues.
Well, now the teams will go to work putting on a new set of Pirelli P0s out of the tire warmers, and that might be the last time we say that for a little while, or at least pretty soon. That will be going away. That's part of the news that was announced earlier in the weekend. No tire warmers for this championship next year. Of course, we'll continue to see them through the rest of this year. Well, let's hear from some of the drivers that just completed their qualifying sessions. Madison Snow is with DJ.
I have indeed caught up with the debutant here for Random Vandals Racing. Madison, the first time this GT3 has been out on the track. How did you find the session, and how's Random Vandals treating you?
I mean, it's nice to have dry track right now. This weekend's been a bit of a wash with quite a bit of rain, but this team's been awesome to work with.
Most excellent. The car feel good?
Yeah, we have some always making improvements after qualifying, going into the race, but feels okay.
All right. Well, Madison, good luck to you when we get race time later today.
Thank you.
Second year in a row that Madison gets a call up to join the championship. You remember that last year, too?
Yeah.
He came in.
And he knows this place well. Won here with Brian Sellers back in 2022. And IMSA finished second here a couple of weeks ago, so he knows the track very well. And I think it's important for that team. They've had Connor DeFilippi, who's going to be competing with the group at the Indy 8, our BMW factory driver who knows this GT3 platform really well. I think Madison will bring a lot to their table as well in terms of that learning curve. Spoke to Mike Harvey, who's kind of the team manager over there around and battle. He's a lot of progress, but drinking from the fire hose right now, lots to learn. And as you mentioned, Connor Daly should have been here this weekend. He got the late call up with Juncos to be competing in St. Louis this weekend. So Madison was a natural choice. Knows the car well, knows the track well. BMW factory pilot. Will do a great job here today.
Yeah, Connor qualified 12th for that race. Will start 9th after a number of those that qualified ahead of him had some grid penalties. Paul Sparta, the team owner for Random Vandals, told me they had an inkling that that could be a possibility. So actually, when they tested here a couple of weeks ago, they had Madison in the car for a day. So they had a contingency in place in case Connor did end up with that IndyCar ride for the rest of the IndyCar season. Talking about lineup adjustments. We've seen this lineup once before, but we did not at VIR. This is Trent Hinman now. Jake Peterson qualified this car from RS1 in qualifying 1 a little bit earlier. Spencer Pompelli has been in and out of the lineup, alternating with Peterson over the course of the season so far. And with that, the car has been transitioning from Pro to Pro-Am.
Right.
It's in the Pro-Am class here this weekend, and Trent is an absolute all-star. Let's see what he can do here in qualifying 2.
Yeah, Jake and Trent competed together at Circuit the America a little bit earlier this season, so we knew coming in that wasn't going to be a full season with them driving together, but you know that team always puts out a great Porsche on the racetrack. Trent coming off a big GT4 victory here a couple of weeks ago as well, so as you said, he always performs at the highest level, top-notch driver.
RS1, one of those teams that has been camping out here at Road America over the last couple of weeks. This is their 3rd straight week racing here at this circuit. Well, early laps just starting to come on the board gives us a chance to go back to the pits and DJ.
I've been able to catch up with your provisional pole sitter for race number 1, Philip Ellis. Another fantastic session. Car's got to be feeling good.
Yeah, it feels pretty good, I have to say. We always like this place here around Road America. It always suits the Mercedes quite well. Not so much in the races, unfortunately, with the long straights uphill. But yeah, we made the most out of it, I think. Just nailed the lap on lap 1 on the peak of the tire. Unfortunately, now I think we found a little crack on the brake disc, so we're not quite sure that we can send out the car for Jeff. So we'll have to see where that comes from, that we can fix it in time for the race, and just hope for the best.
All right, well, we wish you luck in that repair. Philip, thank you so much. Congratulations again.
Thank you very much.
Not a place you want to, ooh, big slide there. Not a place you want to have a crack in a brake disc with at least 3, maybe 4 really heavy braking zones around this place.
Yeah, and they'll play it safe. I mean, the advantage you have if you don't send Jeff out, you're going to have a fresher set of tires to start the race with tomorrow. But sort of Elliott Ski have a bit of a slide high speed into turn 1 on that opening lap, and then just a big lurid one there as he went through turn 8. But now we do see Jeff Burton taking it out there just to feel things out, but not ideal to notice something like that. Send your driver out. As you said, you got big straightaway speed here up close to it. It's about 162, but in the draft probably 165 into a corner like this, Canada corner, into turn 1, into turn 5. So lots of brake temperature is developed in those zones.
High speed Road America, that's for sure. Known as America's National Park of Speed for a reason. We're talking average lap speeds around 115 to 120 miles per hour, and that's with a few pretty slow corners that you have to woe it up for. Gives you an idea of just how fast this place is. Neil Verhagen goes to the top and now supplanted by Robbie Foley, who comes through for Turner Motorsports. No surprise to see those BMWs flexing some muscle, and there's Zach Veach going to 3rd, Logan Sargent.
That was wide there by Robbie. I'm not sure he's going to be able to keep this lap. He'll know that and maybe want to give it up to save the tires a bit. but he was fast, purple in Sector 1 and Sector 3, purple meaning fastest overall. There's a big lap there by Robbie Foley, only 4/10 off that impressive lap that Philip Ellis set in the first qualifying session.
Said Logan Sargent. Of course, I meant Thomas Sargent. Shame on me. But he goes up into the second spot.
He and Kyle coming off that great victory at VIR. Really impressive young man. He's now been supplanted in P3 by Oz Negri. As we now look at Kenton Cook getting up to speed in the Random Vandals BMW.
Had a couple of GT3 opportunities last year in SRO. We've seen him racing in IMSA's GT3 categories as well over the last few years. But this has been a program that's been building all throughout the season, and I'm really excited to see what Kenton Cook can do here with this team and this BMW platform.
You certainly send it there through the kink. I mean, the approach speed is close to 150. I think it's just mid to high 140s as you whistle it through there.
Mentioned the strength of BMW in practice with a 1-2-3 in first practice, and they were up towards the top in that first qualifying session. Hard to read much into practice 2 given all the rain.
So for Hagen jumping in there, I'm just curious to see if they're going to employ that strategy by switching to a second set of tires. Maybe they ran some scuffs. That's pretty early in this session to be giving it up, and Neil's only down in P6, so let's see what ST Racing are up to with their strategy. They'll have to watch it on pit lane for that.
Yeah, both ST Racing BMWs have come in, so we'll see if DJ can get an eye on if they're going to go ahead and make those tire changes. We've seen ST Racing do that in the past. Robbie Foley, overall best Sector 1 and 3 with a really strong middle sector as well. Just went with a 2:03.7. That is quicker than what Philip Ellis had to put it on pole. Now,
yeah, I'm concerned about that turn 1, because to start that fly was when we saw him a little bit out of bounds there. We'll have to wait and see what the stewards say.
See if he's still pushing here on this lap or not. It is the same fuel tank effectively from qualifying 1 to qualifying 2. You used to have to start with enough fuel to do both sessions, so the cars in the second qualifying session do have that advantage where they will be a little bit lighter with nice new tires relative to those in the first qualifying session. Not a surprise if we see the times drop.
Yeah, there's you got Robbie there deep into the 203 range. Skier, Sargent, low 4s. Let's see what ST Racing, I'm curious to see if they put some fresh rubber on here. What you do is you basically have to give up your session times to that point. You're starting from scratch again, so if there's a red flag or anything, there's a big gamble, but you can get a read on the car and then get the driver dialed in as you get more and more rubber down deeper into this session. This track is going to rubber up. The amount of rain we had yesterday will mean that the track is green. By that we mean it doesn't have the rubber down that you saw earlier in the weekend.
This car is on a flyer, Elliott Skier. It doesn't look super comfortable, but it's been fast. He's trending to be just 9 1/1000ths off of pole position through the first 2 sectors. Here comes Elliott Skier, just this one right-hand corner to go, then that long run up the hill to the start-finish line. Here he comes.
That was clean. Yeah, that was a really clean exit on 14. He's been throwing this car around, but that was a clean exit.
To the timing stripe, Elliott Skier, Wright Motorsports, the points leaders. Not enough for pole, but it does improve. Now just 2/10ths off of Robbie Foley. It would be good enough for class pole, however, with the new overall best middle sector on that lap as well. The XDT, Brian Sellers, currently 4th. Oz Negri giving chase in the AF Corsa Ferrari 296. Right behind. That's the pace setter in the AM class. Amazing. Oz Negri now at age 60, classified as an FIA grade bronze driver.
Been working on that for the last decade. There are those timelines where you get chipped down a grade. Sellers on a nice lap here, personal best in Sector 1. Let's see if this can bump him up any. Needs to find a couple of tenths to improve.
Sellers does not improve in terms of position, just a little bit off of his personal best lap time. Negri is still in the 6th spot. Can't quite match his previous best lap time either.
He's in the 204s though. It's a solid lap for Oz Negri, 204.8. Just over a second off Robbie Foley's flyer there. So So Foley and Ellis are the only drivers at this point of the game to have dipped into the 203 range.
Verhagen and Choxy now just starting their flying laps.
Yeah, watch for Verhagen in particular to leap up this scoreboard here if we stay green.
Super quick driver from Connecticut on board with the Canadian team. ST Racing, Canadian driver, of course, with Samantha Tan, but Neil, the American, there is Samantha watching on.
Neil heads down through the moraine sweep into that big deep brake zone down into turn 5.
These two are the points leaders by a hefty 46 points. Coming into the weekend, they have not finished worse than 3rd in class all season long.
Had that little bit of controversy where Neil and Robbie Foley got together at VIR, 2 BMW factory pilots fighting it out through there, and got a little bit ugly with Robbie going for a ride and essentially riding off that chassis. It's a different chassis for the Turner Motorsports Group here this weekend. Listen to those tires squeal there through the carousel. About 270-degree run through there. You see it from an aerial. I really appreciate how it just keeps winding up through there and also falls away. It's amazing when you actually exit and look back towards the carousel how downhill it is coming through there.
There is a lot of elevation change around Road America, but it happens quite gradually over the 4-mile lap. Whoa, big bounce there for
He is
Hagen.
pushing. Look at that. Personal best, sector 1 and 2. See how high he can climb here on this lap. Not sure it's going to threaten the front row, but going to maybe be close.
It's the Corvette just ahead. Might get a little tow coming up the hill. Neil Verhagen kind of can throw away that lap that's up on the board right now because they changed the tires by regulation. That won't stick. He does improve, gets to 5th, but not what they're looking for. I think it's safe to say, given the strength of that team. Oh, and a big slide there too.
Yeah, he pushed, and the car's just not giving it to him.
He's gonna have to hustle around if he wants a chance at one more lap. There would be time for it, but he's backed it down.
That's where you need the team to talk you through this. Listen, Neil, if you've blown turn 1, just hustle around, but don't use the tires up. You can be a couple of seconds off. Don't really load them, and you should be able to get back to the stripe to start a last lap flyer.
Very interesting that the cars that are featuring at the front here in the second qualifying session. Ooh, we got a spin here for the 08 of Sellers.
Yeah, I think he's taking rise through turn 7, maybe?
Yes.
It's the run
Yes,
down the
it
Horry
is.
Downs, isn't it? So I think he may have just maybe understeered off through the, you can see the signboards have been disrupted there.
We might have a look at least part of it. The tail end. You can see how much
trouble
you
is that,
slide.
yeah, that grass is so wet if you get off there. Just got absolutely saturated here over the last couple of days.
Crucially, though, we stay green for now. For Edward to come out, that would cost Brian.
It's about the first time in about a decade I've seen Brian Sellers have a spin.
Right.
It is a very unusual situation.
About as consistent as they come. This would be the overall pole sitter tomorrow as things stand. Here's Alan Metney. This is the pole sitting M-Class car from qualifying 1 with Will Hardiman. Metney still finding a bit more pace. Just put in a personal best down in 14th. Kyle Marcelli, the Canadian for the Canadian team in the red Porsche, being chased up the hill by Tommy Milner.
I'd say Milner there in P8 overall maybe is the biggest surprise, and he doesn't improve.
Nope. Varun Choxy, what does he have? Or is that Verhagen? Actually, that would be Neil.
A little confused here on timing and scoring. It's showing Milner's best lap at a 204.9 and his last lap at a 204.0. So I'm not sure if that 204.0 has already been thrown out for track limits or something, because that's contradictory.
Correct.
So 204.043 would have put him second and first in pro. To try and dig deeper into that.
Clock has run out. Checkered flag is out. A couple of mysteries that need to be solved, but for the moment now, Milner does go to second.
There you go.
So there's your 204 flat.
Yeah.
And that also snags the Pro Class pole away from the points leaders, Elliott Skier and Adam Adelson.
It's like it didn't suddenly register for a moment there, so that makes a lot more sense. This is where we expected Tommy to be performing.
Although Tommy himself was downplaying those chances
Yeah.
a little bit earlier on, but this has been a remarkable start to the year for this group, DXDT Racing. This brand new Corvette, which got its first win globally. And remember, it's racing in multiple championships around the world this year, but the first win came in SRO America competition, and DXDT Racing got it. I know that team takes a lot of pride.
Yeah, and they really should. And thinking about this with Udall and Milner joining mid-season, they've got 100 points on the board with those 4 consecutive victories. They're now 52 points back. So put it in perspective, there's like a 7-point delta between first and second. So if they continue to roll, I mean, we've still got 150 points on the board before the season's end. It's not inconceivable if they continue to win that they couldn't get up there by the end of the season.
I think this could be a flyer here from Sargent for GMG Racing. He and Kyle Washington picked up the win, race 1 at VIR. It was a big one. You could see the emotion on Kyle's face after that performance. That
3/10 off here for Tom on that last lap flyer. So dug deep, had a really good middle sector, but couldn't quite seal the deal.
But still, good effort to qualify 4th overall and 2nd in class. I was going to say this earlier, Cal. We have a lot of different cars that are featuring towards the front here in qualifying 2 compared to qualifying 1. I think we're going to have a lot of comers and goers over the course of this weekend. It should be fun.
It really should. It should be an exciting, good deep field. Unfortunately, we've lost the Schwest Povolato Racing Mercedes AMG. They had a big hit down in turn 5 yesterday, then some engine issues overnight, which are going to curtail their further activity in the weekend, which is a shame, but still going to be a deep field of 15 cars here taking the green today.
And this is the quickest car, thanks to Robbie Foley, who secures the pole for race number 2. His teammate is Justin Rothberg, and Justin is standing by with DJ.
He is indeed. Justin, your teammate just put the car on pole position for you and the Turner Motorsports BMW team. This has got to be a good feeling here on a track that is a little bit unpredictable, as we were just talking about.
Yeah, definitely an amazing feeling. We haven't gotten much practice this week, and coming out of VIR, we obviously had to deal with some dirty driving, which gave us a major setback on the weekend and the championship. So for Rob, overall pole is definitely a great feeling for me, but definitely for him. I mean, I'm sure he's happy in there.
I'm sure he is as well, and you can see the smile on Justin's face. Justin, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Big result for them, 2nd in points, 46 points back, looking to make up some ground perhaps here this weekend after a challenging VIR where they failed to reach the podium for the first time over the course of a 2-race weekend all season long. Here are the provisional results from qualifying 2, with Foley and Rothberg taking that overall pole for Turner Motorsport. The Pro Class pole to DXDT Racing and Tommy Milner there in 2nd overall, just narrowly 3/1000ths of a second faster than Elliott Skier and Wright Motorsports. Then it's GMG Racing's Thomas Sargent, great effort by him. Brian Sellers puts the 2nd DXDT Corvette up into 5th. Neil Verhagen, somewhat surprising, down in 6th. He and Samantha Tan have some work to do. Pole in the AM class for race 2 goes to A.F. Corsa and Oz Negri. So that's how they will line up, pending tech, of course, for the 2nd race of the weekend tomorrow. Beautiful day, although the clouds are starting to roll in a little bit here in Elkhart Lake. But nevertheless, shaping up for a fun race. A look back at qualifying. A couple of highlights from both sessions and a few cars really pushing the edge of track limits. We'll talk more about that as it goes, but good to see the DXDT Racing cars here. Bryson Morris, very impressive in his debut with the team and in the championship. Philip Ellis was the pace setter. He scored pole for race number 1. It's a big smile from Alec Udell after his qualifying effort. Then in the second session, as usual, a land rush to get out onto the racetrack, find some clean space to work with. Ferrari and Corvette making their way around the racetrack. Here is the Wright Motorsports crew. They look like they were set for pole in the Pro Class, pipped narrowly at the end by Tommy Milner and DXDT Racing. Robbie Foley, though, took the overall pole position for today's race, which is coming up at 3 o'clock local time. Hope you join us for that.